I'm going to bring on an industry pro over here, Mark Lockmacher. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Elliot. How are you, man?
I'm fantastic. There's like a giant bug flying around me somehow. Anyway, I'm going to hop off the stream. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to add John Paul, and I will talk to you all soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Elliot. Welcome, everyone. I'll be firing up my presentation in a minute. So my name is Mark Lockmacher. I'm dealing with investor relations and some other things over at Australis. With me is John Paul, our CFO, industry stalwart with a very impressive track record in driving hypergrowth for a lot of companies in a variety of sectors, including the cannabis industry. But I'll be introducing the team in more depth in a little bit. John will be joining us again for the Q&A, and right now I'll start sharing my screen and we'll get going because we don't have a huge amount of time and there's lots to say. So let me get this going. Excellent. So start with the title, and it says the new Australis capital. Just a little bit on our history. Australis originally was a spin-off out of Aurora Cannabis in 2018. One of the reasons behind it was kind of a toehold into the US market, but also in relation to financing that was going on, TSX listing, NYSE listing at the time that we were working on, not allowed to have any US assets. And Aurora had a few minor US assets that were spun off into Australis, or also as we call it now. Over the last few years, the company made a number of investments and kind of drifted away a little bit from the cannabis space, made some investments in, well, one of them was in Body and Mind, obviously a well-known high-quality cannabis company, but also in a number of fintech companies, and that culminated in the company looking to move away entirely from the cannabis industry. Shareholders did not agree with that. We had a well-documented proxy battle at the end of last year. And that's really where the term the new Australis comes in. An entire new board and management were put into place in November, late November. And since we've been executing at a very high pace. So what is the new Australis? We're just beginning. We had a new organization late 2020, really started gathering steam in January of this year, so not very long ago. And although we're kind of a new company, we're not new people. We've got a team of very experienced cannabis industry operator, very successful entrepreneurs. And looking at the cannabis industry, we felt that we had to be different, and not being different to be contrarian. We felt that there were a lot of very similar strategies, where the sort of successful strategies were just too easy to copy. And we saw the same in Canada. There's a large number of companies coming into the space, and really people were looking at what works in terms of execution, but also very much what works on the capital markets. So what we saw was, what I would call a unity sausage that became very difficult to differentiate one company from the next. We looked long and hard at the industry, and not so much with an earmark or just being different for different sake. Because that brings with it high risk. It's good to be contrarian sometimes, but the risk reward, the rewards can be high, but the risks are high as well. And what I will argue is that with Australis, we've got something that's very different, very differentiated company with a strategy that is very difficult to emulate. But at the same time, a strategy that is very de-risked. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So who are we? We're an MSO. An early stage MSO. We're active in Nevada. We're operationalizing assets in Missouri and Oklahoma. We're looking to enter into a large number of other states. On the West Coast, obviously, we're very interested in California. On the East Coast, we're looking at a number of states to move into. And the way we're looking to do this is not by investing in or investing heavily in vertically integrated infrastructure. And that's really where the difference comes in. What we're doing is through our ownership of ALPS, and I'll go into that a little bit more deeply in a little bit, And that's really where the differentiation comes in. Alps is a design consultancy, construction management, operational, cultivation expert company. And through them, we're going to be able to get our hands on low-cost biomass. At the same time, obviously, low-cost, high-quality biomass, great. What you're going to do with it? Well, it's going to fuel the expansion of our brands across the nation. And that's where our ownership of Green Therapeutics, or GT, comes in. GT, very highly regarded company with a number of very successful brands in Nevada. We're in 52% of dispensaries. All the products that we produce is sold out. We got high-end designer brand like Tsunami. We also got a high-quality but more mass market value proposition through Provisions, and we'll be launching other brands as well. We also own the iconic West Coast Mr. Natural brand, which is a sort of brand that finds its origins in the medical space. The guy who founded that, Bob Mr. Natural Luciano, is an ordained Rastafarian priest, Vietnam vet, one of, I believe, only 6 people in the world who is supplied with cannabis through the US federal government. That's a very interesting brand. We own that. We have our mothers on tissue culture, and we're looking forward to rolling out that brand. Game-changing partnerships. I mentioned the ownership of Alps. Alps got Apis. I'll explain that later. We've got a partnership with a very exciting tissue culture company, one of very few companies that can actually do tissue culture and cannabis at scale. And on top of that, we've got a very strong focus on science, but also, culturally, we're a different kind of company. We're, I think, the first one to officially launch an advisory board headed by Melissa Ralston, focused on social equity, diversity, and inclusion. Anyway, that's sort of the company in general. I'll go now into a little bit more detail. I talked about differentiation, and obviously what investors look at, what does your team look like? Who are the people who are actually driving this company? I believe we've got an exceptional management team, and it starts with Terry Booth, our Chief Executive Officer, who became Chief Executive Officer on March 9th. Terry, probably well known to a lot of you as the founder of Aurora Cannabis, a company that he built up with his own money and a few partners at first as a late to the game upstart that still passed any other cannabis company in the space to become at its height an $18 billion company. Terry built that up. He had great vision. Aurora really at that time owned the conversation in the industry. But as I mentioned earlier, Aurora we owned the conversation, but people started copying that conversation. And that's something that's not going to happen now, I think. We've got Jason Dyke. He's a Chief Science Officer. He's also a director of the company. He's a professor in the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Alberta. And some of you may have seen that he actually co-led and co-authored an article recently showing a very positive correlation between people switching to cannabis and opioid sparing. In particular, people who were, dependent on a high dosage opioid for their pain management regime. They've shown, based on actual data on many, many thousands of actual patients between 2013 and 2018, that cannabis is effective in reducing opioid dependency. Very important research. Anyway, Jason is an integral part of our company. He's helping out on a number of fronts, including product development, but a lot of our science-driven initiatives. Then we've got Dr. Duc Phu, who is the CEO of Green Therapeutics. He's the COO of Australis, former president of Medman back in 2014, 2015. Very science-driven approach, but what Duc's also done, he's listened very carefully to the market. So he and his team, very science-driven approach. They have developed, the Tsunami and the Provisions and the GT Flowers brands. But those brands are very accurately targeted at their consumer demographics. And what we see is products that sell at a premium, and products that sell out completely, within a very short time after hitting the shelves. Then we've got John Paul, who I just introduced, our CFO, very strong CFO, big background in driving hyper-growth companies in a variety of sectors. Prior to joining us, he was the CFO of Plus Products, company where he made a big change and really turned it around into a very interesting producer of edibles in the cannabis space in the US. And then lastly, Leah Bailey, who joined us on May 17 as our Chief Business Development Officer. She was previously the CEO of Flourish, again, a company where she led the company to growth, one of the leading companies in the Illinois market, EBITDA positive, substantial revenues. Again, this team, what I want to say about this team more than anything else, it puts us in a really good position. All these people understand the industry really well. They understand what we're trying to do. They have got a very clear focus on where we want to be and where we need to be. But also they got standing within the industry. So even though we're a fairly young company, we are sitting around the table with very, very interesting connections. And although it's a bit of an intangible, I think it's very important. This management team gives us access to interesting deals that otherwise would not be available to companies of our scale. And I'm saying our scale at this point, but we believe we've got a lot of accelerated growth ahead of us. So what's our vision? Our vision is to become a global player in the cannabis space. For now, we're very strongly focused on the US, but we'll also be looking at Europe, which has been developing probably more slowly than people had anticipated a few years ago. But we believe that Europe is about to reach an inflection point with more countries legalizing cannabis. I think Luxembourg is now the first country that's going to be legalizing recreational cannabis. The Netherlands has got a pilot project going on whereby the coffee shops in 10 cities will be supplied with legally grown cannabis, which previously wasn't possible. So we're going to see an inflection there. We anticipate very rapid growth. The US is 330, probably maybe up to 350 million people. Europe, depends on how you count, between 500 and 700 million people. A very massive market. As a company, we're going through transition from being an investment company, which what we were previously, to an actual operator and MSO. I talked about that. We're optimizing our competitiveness, positioning ourselves for when cannabis becomes legal in the US at a federal level, when we'll be able to start shipping cannabis across state borders. And we're really focused on having competitive advantages that are sustainable. And again, I'll keep coming back to this. Difficult to emulate, difficult to copy, but sustainable competitive advantages in an industry that is and will become, increasingly more competitive. And how do you ensure you're competitive? Obviously, you need to have your distribution sorted, you need to have your market access, but at the bottom of it, you need to be a low-cost producer of high-quality goods. And that's where our unique strategy comes in. As I said, led by pioneer Terry Booth, with a very accomplished management team, with the right connections. Our strategy is focused on securing that access to low-cost, high-quality biomass. And I'll explain a bit more. Like I said, we own ALPS. We're a majority owner now with an option to acquire the remaining 49%. ALPS is like the big brand in facility design and construction and management. In exchange for helping companies with their either existing facilities that may need to be upgraded or building new facilities, we'll be giving them our IP. Obviously, we're being paid a fee for this. But at the same time, we offer them the opportunity to enter into a partnership with us. And under that partnership, we would grow, they would dedicate a certain percentage of the canopy space to growing our cultivars. And we've got some very interesting cultivars. Duke and his team recently announced they've got a few cultivars that score in the 30 to 35% THC with very high terpene concentration, very, very beautiful products. But anyway, so these people will be growing our biomass and then selling it back to us at cost plus. And here's where we really differentiate from other companies. Because if you're looking at cost plus, we do not have to sink heavy capex into building cultivation infrastructure. So we don't carry the cost of equity there. Secondly, under a cost plus regime, we know that our price is stable, but also cost plus is going to be much cheaper for us than buying product wholesale. Because we're not the only ones with a model where a company is buying biomass in the market and using that to produce their own goods. But what we're seeing in the market, that especially when you're looking at higher quality products, that it's difficult to get that biomass and that the price fluctuations are enormous. So where 1 month we get just about to be profitable, the next month if prices go through the roof because for some reason there is not enough high quality biomass in the system, your profitability goes out the window. And that's what I meant by the de-risking that I said earlier. We're going to have secure access to stably priced, low-cost biomass. Now, because this biomass will be grown in facilities that ALPS is going to hand in, and ALPS is really, the benchmark in facility design and operation, it means that we know that the cannabis is going to be very, very good. So that's at the core. That sort of sets the access to biomass. It enables us to move into new states. It enables us to have a large footprint at a very low capital outlay and at a very, sustainable cost advantage over other companies in the space. Now, that product needs to go somewhere. That goes into brands. And like I said, through GT and Mr. Natural, we've got a number of brands that resonate really well with their target groups. And we'll be looking to introduce those brands, at a larger scale in the states that we already operate in, and looking to move into a number of other states.
Hey, Mark, I apologize for interrupting, but we got about 1 minute left here. If there's anything you would like to say to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm going to go through it very quickly. So I just want to say a couple more things about ALPS. Over 100 million square feet in projects, talking all over the world, both in cannabis and non-cannabis. The non-cannabis side will be feeding us with cash flow to support the expansion of our cannabis operations. These are the people. This presentation will be downloadable. ALPS currently working on projects with total capex. This is money spent by our clients of about $1 billion, $4 billion in pipeline of potential new projects. So, quite substantial growth ahead. Green therapeutics. Just a nice thing about about GT is that we already put our model in motion at a smaller scale. GT is taken over operation of a partner's cultivation facility. We operate that for them. It doesn't cost us anything. We sell the products under the GT brand, and we get a royalty in return. We're also building on distribution channels. We just announced a partnership with Thrive. Others are under discussion. Other operational agreements are underway with GT as well. I mentioned our brands. We're moving into Oklahoma and Missouri. We're very focused on the Eastern US markets. We're looking at them through an ROI lens. Hey, where do we get the highest return on investment, depending on the cost of entering markets, competitive dynamics. We're putting together a market entry team, well-connected people that get us into places, California, other markets. What you can expect from us: rapid growth, much more rapid revenue growth, short path to profitability, very interesting deals, lots of innovation, and like I said, a unique model that positions us really well in a de-risk manner to grow very rapidly, to grow large, to become a meaningful, we believe, tier 1 MSO with a global footprint.
With incredible leadership, I'll add.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If I could just add like a closing comment, what you're getting with Australis is an outstanding management team, particularly with Terry Booth. And what we bring is, one of the connections, and then access to top people around the country, give us access to a deal, but then also, the ability to raise capital to structure deals and also operate the deals afterward. See, a lot of people have gotten licenses, but they're just not able to take advantage of them. And we think we can partner with people like that and really fully capitalize on the value of the licenses that have been untapped in other parts of the country.
I love that. John, that's fantastic. And Mark, appreciate the deep dive, man. That was very insightful.
You're very welcome.
And it is a unique model, everybody. He's not lying when he says it's a unique model. So I'm anxious to kind of catch up with you all in maybe a couple months and continue to mark these milestones with you. So thank you very much for being here. My brother says hi, Mark, by the way. Patrick wanted me to say hey.
And I'll be speaking to him shortly. Just maybe last note to the audience. This was a very short snapshot of the company. There's many other things that I would love to talk about, but time just wasn't there. We'll be at MJ BizCon. We'll probably be at the next Benzinga in person, which I believe is early October, around October 13th.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In New York. A week later, we'll be in Vegas with a booth. But in the meantime, our contact details are on the presentation. They're on our website. Please connect with us. We've got a beautiful story to tell. That I said, it's unique. It's focused on highly profitable, rapid growth in a de-risked manner, fueled by cash flows coming from Alps and our cannabis operations. We've got a lot of interesting things in the cooker. And we look forward to continue the discussion with capital markets. Thanks very much.